dawn on Prince Edward Island. That's when PEI's 1,200 lobster fishermen begin their day, many hours before other islanders stir. There's no need for breakneck speed. In this limited entry fishery, a global positioning system, GPS, will plot the boats to their traps each fisherman will set off the north shore. The traps will be hauled 6 days a week for 2 months in the most regulated fishery in the Maritimes. For the past 25 years, PEI fishermen have landed 18 to 23 million pounds of lobster a year in their 2-month seasons, May through June, August through September. Those stable landings year after year tell fishermen that the resource is sustainable. To ensure the stock remains sustainable, the fishermen are heavily involved in their local associations, advisory boards, science programs, and partner with the 2 levels of government both on and off season.
I remember the old boats there, the old sharp stern boats. I got a lot of pictures I gathered up over the years, and they had the old hand pump. You'd go down in the morning at 3 o'clock and the water was over the floorboards, but that was something that just happened. You didn't get excited about it. You pumped her out, you headed out to sea. Couldn't do much in school. Still don't know fractions too well. But anyway, Mom said, well, if you're not going to do anything in school, you better try and get on down to harbour, down to factory, working at the lobsters. You're only about 15 or so, I guess. And then my uncle said, well, if you want to come out and help out, I'll give you a few dollars, moving the traps around. So that's when it started.
This is the best place in the world to be fishing. I mean, it's just a great place to fish, a great place to be in the fishing community.
Just after the winter months, the later part of March, you'll hear a seagull along the coast, and it just seems to draw you back.
Like I said earlier, I build my own fishing vessels, so you go to the woods, you cut the lumber, you bring it in, you set it up, you build the traps, you're involved in it. It's a family business. I have 5 sons, they fish too, so it's a great lifestyle.
Fishing's not for everybody, I'd be the first one to admit it, but when it gets in your blood and you like it, it's a hard job to give up. You just want to do it.
If it's in your blood, it's one of the greatest jobs in the world.
The lobster fishery in particular is very, very important to the small communities of PEI. When we start putting the gear on the wharf in April, you can feel the buzz then that, that people are anticipating getting going.
We could probably, between the 2 of us here, we could probably tack them all together in a day, and then for 25 traps, you'd be probably talking a couple of fellas, probably a good 8-10 days work from start to finish. Like I said, last year we built 112 and took us the most part of the winter off and on, working back and forth, we were most part of the winter.
Well, we have a little over 1,300 core fishermen on PEI that fish lobster, so it's a limited entry. Not anybody can get in, you have to buy somebody out. So that 1,300 has stayed roughly the same since the 70s. We catch lobster with bait that we put on the traps for 2 months of the year. The rest of the time he's in his natural habitat and he's on his own. In other words, everything he catches is basically, he fends for himself out there in the wild. He's not being force fed or anything like that. It's a pretty natural habitat he's living in. And his food is pretty well organic food source. So that being said, I think it's probably one of the most healthy things we can eat.
Prince Edward Island fishery in the Gulf of St. Lawrence has probably some of the strictest regulations to regulate the fishery in the world. From everything from trap limits, trap sizes, hoop sizes, the size of the lobster. And we probably have one of the most regulated and most sustainable fisheries in the world today.
Our lobster resource monitoring program, as we call it, is made up of 2 main components. The first component is biologists such as myself and technicians from the department go on board commercial vessels during the lobster fishing season, and they collect data on the lobsters that are caught as part of the commercial catch. The The second component of the program is made up of volunteer fishermen, and they collect data each day from 6 traps that they fish.
Mostly, I think what they're watching mostly is the smaller lobsters to see the abundance and it gives a very good indication of what's on the bottom, because when we see his graphs at the end of the year, what it shows is pretty well bang on what our next season is going to be. Like, you know, it's very close.
Harvesting lobster is only part of the job of getting it to the consumer. Local processing facilities across Prince Edward Island work hard during the fishing season and throughout the year to process and export millions of pounds of PEI lobster around the globe. In Tignish, Royal Star Foods operates a processing facility that's owned by local fishermen. Francis Morrissey is not only its general manager, but also a board member of the PEIFA.
Royal Star Foods is right at the moment is the largest lobster processing facility on PEI. We buy our lobsters from our members, which is Royal Star Foods is totally owned by its members. It's 180 members that fish exclusively for the company. Anywhere from lobster to crab, herring, mackerel, tuna, ground fish. We process all the species that we buy. From the boat right to the finished product to the consumer in our markets there, Canada, United States, Asia and Europe. From our own boats last year we purchased roughly around 4 million pound lobster.
Growing up in the island, you know your local farmers and your local producers and fishermen and all that, and it's just really nice to be able to talk to the fishermen right on the boat and get the lobster fresh, and you know where it came from and what shape it's in, and then you get to know the lobster as far as the different seasons go. The earlier lobster in the north side, and then the later in the summer you get on the south side, and it's just a great industry to be a chef and involved in. We have to work together in order to maintain the fishery, and we also have to work together to promote the product.
Biggest job that we have as a board at the FA and as anyone involved with the fishery right down to the processor is to get the price of lobster up to the fisher persons I should say, because now we have a lot of women that fish in the fishery and they own licenses. One time you never seen that, but that's the biggest issue facing us right now, and I guess it's going to be a combined effort between the processors, government, the FA, everybody that's involved in the fishery, because if the price continues to stay where it's at, well then they just can't sustain staying into the fishery and the fishery will die.
It's fun. It's a lot of. I've enjoyed it over the years. I spent from the time I was a kid, and I've enjoyed fishing. There's opportunity out there for sure, and I mean it's a great way to make a living. And you know, I wouldn't have chosen any other course if I would have had an opportunity. And look back, I'd do the same thing all over again.
With the stock sustainable, the challenge remains to increase the shore price to where the fishermen can sustain themselves. And they're not facing that challenge alone. Both levels of government continue to support the industry with marketing research and better science. With this support, PEI fishermen remain convinced that they can continue to harvest and market the finest lobster in the world.